Hopefully, you're having a great day today. So, in this week, I want to switch it up a little bit and talk a little bit more about the financial side of being in a normal BMI versus overweight versus obese. And this really wraps into creating a mindset and having goals of like, why do we want to continue to focus on eating healthier, making those better food choices, still having a little bit of the fun food in, like we talked about with the 80-20 rule, but why not just, throw it out the window and just eat whatever you want all the time? We always have to have goals. Rudderless ships usually crash. So once we have a goal, that's going to help us. And a lot of times we're going to talk about how it affects your mental being, how it affects how you feel, your self-esteem, your confidence. That's all great. But today I want to talk about like the financial side of what can happen when you focus on, eating healthier and make those better decisions and choices versus if you don't, and sometimes there's a financial impact that really can motivate people too. So everybody is motivated a little bit differently. And like I said, my goal is to share this information and let you guys digest it how you want so then you can make your decisions long term. And I firmly feel that the more knowledge that you have, the easier it is to make these healthier decisions over time. The more we know how it impacts our life in a positive way versus a negative way, the easier it is for us to move forward in making those better decisions. And what they found when they looked at these three classes, and you can find out which class you're in, just Google a BMI chart, take your height, take your weight, and then you can see where you're at. Now, obviously, it's not always an exact science because if you tend to have more muscle on you and lean muscle, it might push you a little bit higher. But in general, as you look at yourself and you know, like, are you a fairly lean person with more muscle, or do you know that you have some fat you have to lose? But they looked at those three groups and they found the normal BMI to the overweight. The overweight group spent $600 more in those associated health costs, whether it was higher premiums, more medical bills, or missed work. When they looked from normal to obese, it was almost $2,500 a year. So when you look at these, your choices and which BMI you go in can have a major financial impact in your life for sure. And then if you take these and instead of looking at 1 year, you look at five, you look at 10, just being overweight could cost you $6,000 more over 10 years. If you're obese, it could cost you up to $25,000 more every 10 years. So, I mean, over 30 years, you're talking about $75,000, along with obviously not feeling well and all the things that come with, being in that range versus being healthier in a normal range. And just people in research from less hypertension, excuse me, from having less hypertension, less blood pressure, having lower cholesterol, and just overall feeling better. Not only can it have a major role in your health, but it can actually play a really large role in your pocket. Now, inside those three BMI classes, they also looked at mental health and how that went to that. So they looked at those and they found going from normal to overweight, it had a moderate increase in the risk of having depression symptoms. To going from normal to obese, there was a significant risk in more depression and more anxiety. And a lot of that had to play with like hormones, inflammation. Obviously, there's like social stigma that comes with that too. So this doesn't mean that everybody has to be perfect and everybody has to be in a normal BMI weight range. I'm not saying that. I just want to present you with research to show you that, hey, another reason to help kind of set up your compass, or so to speak, of like why do you want to set up a lifetime of healthy eating besides the benefits of obviously looking better and having more self-confidence as far as what you look like in your clothes, but also there's the factor of just feeling healthier overall and having more energy and less pain and being able to move more. And there's also the financial factor of just being in a lower weight range is just proven research that you can save yourself a lot of money. Who wouldn't want to do that? Then also, obviously, it improves your mental health too. And then these days, mental health is definitely something that should be important for all of us. And just making basic changes like what you eat in your food can make a major role in your health and your pocketbook also. Now, another topic I like to talk about on the same kind of mental health perspective is social media. So my opinion is be very careful who you listen to online, especially if you go on like YouTube and Instagram. Majority of what you're going to see specifically in the health sector too is mostly just BS and garbage. It's all like shock factor just to get you to try to get your eyes and your attention on it. But just be very careful. I see so many accounts online where people talking about being a health or a wellness coach or a nutrition coach. They have no training. You even see a lot of accounts where people actively talking about how they're taking steroids, which are illegal. So it's just one of those things, in my opinion, when you're looking at things, be very careful who you listen to for your health information. One thing I think is a really good source, and of course, I'm not able to go through and make and record and shoot a ton of recipe videos, but one good thing that you can use social media for is finding high protein, high fiber, low sugar, low carb, low fat meals. I mean, there's so many different videos out there, and I'll probably start tagging some of those videos just to give you easy ways of finding different ways to meal prep, especially batch amounts of food. So if you want to make 3 or 4 days of meals, there's so many people that have created those. So just be careful who you listen to online. There's a lot of garbage out there. A majority of it is that. There's so many like so-called experts that have no credentials, no experience, and it's kind of like the wild wild west. You have to be very careful who you listen to. But I think a good source for going online, if you want to do it yourself, is looking for, like I said, high protein batch, ways to make batch orders of recipes. There's a lot of good information on there. So I'll start probably tagging some of those soon also. All right, and then the last topic to wrap up this week's videos, which more are kind of wrapped around your mindset and your why, is make sure you're always focusing on that. Don't lose track of that. Like we talk about, what you tend to focus on does well, what you kind of don't just let drifts away tends to not get good results. So you should have a goal, continue to write it down every week. Why do you want to be at X weight? Like not just the weight, but like, why do you want to do that? Is it, I want to feel better? I know that when I'm at that weight, I'm sleeping better. My energy is improved. Have less joint pain. I just feel more vibrant. I get my confidence back. You always want to focus on that because, like I said, as you go through life, you're constantly getting bombarded from friends, family members, the media, what you see online with, not the best choices. It's more sugar, fast food, fried food, events, things you do like that. And not that you can't have a little bit of it, but we always have to have that main why of like, why are we going to focus on making our best decisions possible? And that has to be the long term. And only you can decide that. I can't tell you what those reasons are. We can help give you the tools of what to do and the knowledge of hopefully you can, achieve where you want to be in your weight and you want to feel better. But the main why, the main goal that's going to help kind of be your compass to drive you there, you have to figure out yourself. So just like weighing yourself once or twice a week, I would still highly recommend as you go through maintenance, have a goal, write it down once a week. Set an alert in your phone, whatever day, it doesn't really matter. And just take a pen and paper or type it up on your phone in like your notes section of like why it's important for you to maintain your health. Maybe you want to be active for your grandkids. Maybe you want to feel better. Maybe you had a health problem that resolved from eating healthier and being more active. I think that's very, very important because, like I said, it takes time. It takes energy. Nothing is easy about staying in a healthier weight range. It just does take work, but it's well worth it. And once you're able to put in a year or two of doing it, it becomes second nature to you. And I wouldn't even say 2 years. It's just once you can put in a good amount of time, maybe it's a year of really focusing on what to eat, what not to eat. You get used to those types of foods. You get used to having like 6 or 7 different meals that are your go-tos. It does become easy, but it does take time and effort and energy up front to build those habits in. Just like when you started the reduction phase, it was probably tougher for everybody in that first week. Once you got used to it and you adapted, it became much easier. And over time, after you get to the fifth and sixth and seventh and eighth week, it's much easier. Then you get to reap the benefits of feeling better and losing the weight and everything that comes with it. So, hope you enjoyed this topic. Talk to you next week.